Good afternoon, St. Cloud. I'm Mary Emma Batchelder, Communications Director with the city, and we're here to update you on what's happening with the issues we've been experiencing with our afternoon rainstorms. With me today, we have immediately to my right, your left, Veronica Miller, Deputy City Manager, Nasim Gandour, Public Works Director. To my left, Marjorie Craig, Environmental Services Director. Environmental Utilities Director. And on the far end, we have Leon Wachter, Floodplain Manager. Thank you all for being here. Nasim, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the flooding issues are and where?
Thank you, Miriam. That's a very good question. Specifically, this time of year, for those of us who are veterans of Florida, such as many of us in this room are, and of course a lot of people out there are as well. Florida goes through a season of, with hurricane season, a lot of rains, and of course, with hurricane season comes and then rains. Luckily, knocking on wood, that we've haven't had many wind events. However, with the near misses, I'll say like that, with hurricanes, we do get a lot of the outside effects, outlying effects, which is a lot of rain events that do come to Florida, specifically Central Florida. And we've been, this past year specifically, we've been getting quite a bit of frequent rain events, which is a lot of which compounds to a lot of saturated areas. That ultimately develops, isolated flooding events in certain areas because, as the old saying goes, as they teach us in engineering school, water flows downhill, and as water is flowing downhill, it gets to the point where it's trying to get to the bigger water basins, such as Lake Tahoe and other areas around Florida. On that, and of course, as part of our water system, our drainage system, we do. The city has a series of conveyances, such as underground piping, open conveyance, which is the ditches along the side of the roads, as well as the yards, like the grassy areas that you might see on the sides of the roads, yards, and so forth, which is part of the overall water drainage system, which goes into the ground. With the rain events that we've been getting, the areas have been pretty much has been saturated. So your groundwater has been saturated. Groundwater has been saturated to the point where water is trying to go to its lowest point. And unfortunately, when it keeps compounding with additional rain events, it's trying to go. However, it's waiting for the water that was there before to get going as well. So that's kind of like the simplistic terms of in regards to the recent floodings that we've been getting. And unfortunately, those spill over onto other areas such as roads, which is impervious surfaces, which is areas where the water will not dissipate unless it goes somewhere else. On that, and typically when we get a rain event, rule of thumb, and I have two thumbs, so I usually use two rules of thumbs. One is after a rain event, it does take some time. The time does vary, and the level varies, but usually we say about 72 hours after a rain event is over, water should be able to escape. However, we like to see that lower, of course, but we do have to give it some kind of measurement.
Great, thank you. So what kind of things can your crews, our city crews, do to help that water find some place to go? Obviously, we have saturated ground. We've seen a lot of places where the water seems to have nowhere to go, but I know your crews have been out doing some things to try to help facilitate some water flow. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. Specifically here in St. Cloud, I'm proud to say that we do have an outstanding team of stormwater and streets personnel who work together. So when we have increased rain events, our streets personnel turn over and they work on the stormwater side. So our crews have been working pretty much we double teamed our crews and been working consistently, especially before known rain events such as the previous hurricane that kind of skirted along the side of Florida. We were out there, posturing ourselves for something, going through, checking drainage systems to ensure that in regards to blockages that we can see, trying to determine if there's any kind of blockages that we may not be able to see, but we have indication of. But of course, and checking water levels on lakes. Some of the lakes here in St. Cloud are maintained by the city of St. Cloud. Some of the lakes are maintained by HOAs. We inspect all the lakes equally, and then when we see an issue, we speak up and coordinate with the homeowners association, HOAs. But also we're working with other municipalities to ensure that levels are down to where they should be, and systems are pushing forward. And then of course for the rain event, during a rain event, we're out there to ensure that any kind of areas that might be getting some high levels, we're saving those areas out because public safety is our #1 concern. We're saving it out. We don't want people to get hurt. We don't want to see property damage, so we're going out there trying to take care of the issue as it comes. After the rain event is over, our crews are out there full blast, trying to ensure that we're uncovering areas that may have been covered from yard debris. Our shovel is our best friend. We go with a shovel and we scrape clippings off drains to allow the water to keep flowing, because sometimes the water wants to go somewhere, but the door is closed. Yeah. So we want to make sure the door is back open. Of course, we go out, we check for any kind of debris that might be in the roads. We check for, and of course, water and roads don't really mix. We're checking for other things such as potholes to ensure that we can get those fixed as well.
Great. Thank you so much. Now, Marjorie, one of the concerns that we keep hearing about from some of our residents is that their toilets won't flush after we have one of these big rain events. Can you help us understand a little bit as to what rain has to do with my toilet flushing and not flushing, and just kind of how that process works and why it matters?
Sure, and as Naseem mentioned, every year we have a rainy season, and so we kind of come to expect the rains, and there are low places in the city, and there are some places that typically pond. What we haven't been experiencing, at least what I'm hearing from the residents, is this high level of the wastewater system, which is actually causing it to back up through into the streets in some cases. And that's something that's different. So what we're doing is we're definitely looking at how we can resolve that. So the toilet, if you have again, going through the gravity, that the water's going to be looking for a place to go. The wastewater system and the stormwater system are two separate systems. They both operate primarily by gravity. So the water is seeking the lowest place to go. So a wastewater system collects your waste from your house, and it pipes it through gravity through a service lateral to the street pipe. And so it'll flow down to the next pipe or the next part of the pipe. In Florida, it's pretty flat. I like to bike. If I want some hills, I got to go a little bit somewhere else. So the pipes, in this case, when you design them, sometimes you have to lift up that waste and push it to the next gravity pipe. Mm-hmm. So that's where the lift station is. So the gravity, the waste is flowed by gravity through the pipe, goes to the lift station, and then it's pulled up by a pump and pushed down into the next gravity string of pipe or length of pipe. Okay, so when we talk about lift stations, that's what we mean. When we talk about it being surcharged, again, gravity. If the pipe is not under pressure, so water can come into that sewer pipe, stormwater pipe, wastewater pipe, either one. Both pipes are, as they age, even if they're not old, you can have breaks and seams where the water tries to get in. It's looking for a place to go. Right now, our system, even though a lot of our pipes are lined, there's water still coming into our system, and it's causing it to be full. So as it's flowing up, your pipes, normally the bathroom would be flowing into the pipe, the waste. The pipe's already full of water. A lot of it's stormwater. You can't flush your pipe and push against that water that's already there. So that's what's causing it.
Okay, great. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate the explanation. Can you talk a little bit about what the city is doing to address that issue and try to repair it?
Absolutely. So we did notice that there's been a big increase in that surcharging or that filling up the lift stations and all of the wastewater pipes that I mentioned. And that seemed to have occurred sometime in the May of this year. And so we're looking at all the factors that may have caused that. So we talk about in the wastewater industry, we talk about inflow and infiltration. So as Nassim mentioned, the groundwater is already wet. And so that groundwater will push itself into those pipes by gravity and, you know, the pressure from the water stacked up. And so that's infiltration. And depending on the holes in the pipe, if the seams are tight, the manholes, you know, if you got an open manhole, it'll go right, a wastewater system manhole, it'll go right into the system and help fill that system up, in a bad way in this case. So we're looking at all of those ways. So if the water goes into a manhole, that's called inflow. So we're looking at those two factors to see if we can eliminate any of those large sources of water through data, through customer complaints. So it's really, really important that if you're experiencing that you contact us and you let us know so that we can help paint the picture of how big this problem really is. And then we've brought in who I consider the top experts in the state to look at the hydraulics, to be out in the field. So you may see us out there. I've been walking, our crews have been walking around, Nassim and I have been out in the field. You're going to see some of those experts out in our city looking at this problem, because this is the city manager's office, the elected official, this is a priority. And so we are working to fix this as soon as we can, because this part of it, the flooding, you know, the rain happens every year. This we've got to fix as soon as we can. So working with Nassim, with all the city departments on a team to come up with solutions on a short-term, medium-term, and long-term basis. This problem did not occur overnight. We really appreciate your patience as we sort through it, but we really have a great team working on this, and we're dedicated.
Great. So when we talk about some of those longer-term solutions that you alluded to, I know we've heard a lot of talk about lining some of these pipes. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, how you do it? Like, are we going to have to tear up roads to do this? Or, and then kind of what improvements we expect to see once we put those linings in the pipes?
That's a great question. So in the wastewater industry, as your pipes age or as you find some issues in the pipes, you might find a crack, we do line pipes. So we typically use something called a cast-in-place pipe, which is CIPP. You can Google it and sort of read more about it if you want. But it's basically you hire a company to come in with it's a felt material, and it's impregnated then with a resin, and then it's I think refrigerated, kept somewhere kind of cool, and then they bring it out to the site. They push that material into the pipe, and they fill it with steam, which kind of makes it bond against what they call the host pipe, which is just the pipe that you're lining. And then they seal it and let it and cure it in place, so it takes some time for that to harden. And you know, there's some other techniques to where the connection points are. And one of the key points to this is the laterals, which are, I mentioned earlier, the service lines, the service laterals, that those laterals, we have to make sure that those are tight. So as we conduct our data collection, we're looking at those areas where we've already done the pipelining and seeing were those done correctly. Is that one of the sources of inflow or infiltration?
Okay. Great. So in theory, once we get this pipe lining in, it should cut down or reduce completely the infiltration and the inflow into some of those pipes.
Yes, it'll reduce.
May be occurring, it'll reduce it. Okay, great.
Yes, so we want to look at it on a targeted basis, very strategically, look at the numbers, look at the data, and then budget for it. So programmatically, we typically have money in our budget to do some level of pipelining every year.
Okay.
Okay? But what we're experiencing now is out of the norm. And so as we go in there, we may find that we may have a few bigger problems, and we may need to do some construction. So to your earlier point, are we going to tear up the roads? If we go in and line the pipes and there are no bigger issues than just lining the pipe, the answer to that question is no. But if we find a problem, then we're going to fix it. We may have to dig up your road, and so we appreciate the patience in getting that fixed.
So the lining will take care of a lot of problems, but if we find that there were bigger issues, we may need to go in and replace that pipe, which would be digging it out, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great, thank you. And you mentioned that we have programmed money for this every year, so this is an ongoing thing, but if we need emergency repairs, we're prepared to do what
City
we need
manager
to do.
and the city council have said this is a high, top priority, so.
Great, thank you, Marjorie, I appreciate that. Veronica, I understand the city has some plans in place for the short term to kind of help our residents get through this time, particularly with their plumbing issues. Can you tell us a little bit about what's planned for the weekend and the next week?
Yes, thank you, Mary Emma. We know the current situation is not ideal for our residents, and we're committed to doing what it takes in order to help them through this while we work to identify and correct what the issues are. So immediately what we're planning on doing over the weekend, we have showers that are going to be available at the Chris Lyle Aquatic Center. And also, we have restrooms at the lakefront that will also be available for our residents. In the long term, hopefully starting Monday, what we're going to do is we're bringing in a mobile restroom shower building that will give residents the opportunity to come in and take care of their needs if they're being currently affected by this situation.
And these aren't like little porta potties that you might see out. This is a little nicer facility, as I understand.
Correct. These are basically mobile trailers with air conditioning, stalls. That they're
Lighting
nice.
and so forth.
Yes.
Great. Okay,
Yes.
wonderful.
And
how
we're
long-
working with the police department also to make sure that everything will be secure.
Safe and secure for
Yes.
people who use those. Okay. And how long do you expect that our residents might need to be using those portable trailer facilities?
We anticipate this will be for about a week,
Okay.
but if the situation lasts longer than that, then we will keep the facilities there as long as we need to. Like I said, we're committed to taking care of our residents that are being affected right now. This is our priority.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So Leanne, we'll go over to you. Can you talk, you're kind of our resident expert on flooding and flooding mitigation for the city. Can you talk a little bit about some things that residents can do to help prevent flooding on their property, and also what steps they need to take once they have flooding?
Sure. There's a number of things that we as residents can do to minimize the effects of flooding in our community and in our neighborhoods. Keep in mind that what ends up in our streets eventually ends up in our storm drains and into our stormwater ponds. That includes grass clippings, cigarette butts, loose garbage, any debris, basically, that you see that's in the road. So keep that in mind when you're doing your landscaping. It's also a very good idea to install rain gutters in your home to divert water into the proper drainage flow. Rainwater from your roof is the primary cause of erosion around your home. Gutters that extend at least 1 foot away from your house, that can help prevent erosion damage to your foundation of your home. So ensure that the gutters, when installed, are directed towards the streets and the drainage areas. Sometimes the swales are on the side of the home. If you go to your local home improvement store, there are supply items that will easily extend your downspouts into the correct direction. Another thing is sometimes the garages, patios, and storage areas of your home are built lower than the residential living area of your home. So keep in mind that whatever you store there, important items, whether it be your precious Christmas materials or what, just keep in mind that those areas can be damaged by water and flooding events. One other thing that residents can do to reduce drainage issues is to regularly inspect your fences to ensure that water can flow freely underneath of them. Fences a lot of times can be installed too low to the ground and can be blocked by overgrown grass. I know that a lot of us have the St. Augustine grass, which gets very thick and can grow very quickly with a rain event. So keeping these areas trimmed and unobstructed under the fences can help the natural flow of water during these rain events. So those are some things that we as residents can do for our own property to help minimize the reduce the effects of flooding. You had mentioned, Mary Emma, about what you can do if you do incur flooding and water damage into your home. Number one, I would suggest residents, if they haven't done so already, to kind of mark this on their calendar at the beginning of every storm season, to take photos of your home and your belongings. This inventory is essential for insurance purposes. If you haven't done so at the beginning of this storm season, I would suggest going ahead and doing that today. Take photos of every side of your home and your belongings inside the house as well. That gives insurance adjusters the information of what the before pictures looked like. They're going to need that information. If your home does incur damage, be sure to take a lot of photos, and videos are very important to document the damage for insurance purposes. If you, a lot of homeowners do not know that, or are not aware that our homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage incurred by rising water. So that's something that if you have questions about flood insurance, the city does not handle flood insurance policies, but we can guide you to that information.
Great. And there's a little bit of misinformation out there where people think, you know, I was told when I bought my house that I'm not in a flood zone, so I'm going to be high and dry. But that's not necessarily always the case, is it?
No. Some residential areas in our community are located in what we call the special flood hazard areas. FEMA identifies these as zones A and AE. These areas are known as the high-risk zones for flooding. Since our community as a whole, City of St. Cloud, is in a low-lying area, none of us are actually risk-free from flooding. To find out what flood zone you are in, and if you're at a high risk or a low or moderate risk, residents can contact me directly at 407-957-7275, and I'll be happy to help out with that.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I know that will be of big benefit to a lot of our residents who have questions about that. So before we wrap up here, Nasim, I don't think we can have a conversation about flooding in St. Cloud without talking about 192. We had a rain incident last month that resulted in some lot of rain in a short period of time, and we experienced some flooding on 192. And in talking with residents, we hear a lot that's not an uncommon problem. So can you talk a little bit about what happens on 192 and what the city is doing to address that?
All right, thank you. Yeah, that's a very good question, and definitely a question that I know that a lot of people do ask and always wonder in regards to roadways, in regards to safety through roadways. And of course, the first thing I would like to state is, when any roadway, regardless the size of the roadway and so forth. I mean, you see a flooded roadway, you got to be careful as a driver. Always be careful to obviously slow down, but then and maneuver safely. Sometimes safely means not trying to pass a flooded roadway, because the best thing that could happen is that your car gets a little wet. The worst thing that can happen is the car gets swept away with you inside it and the occupants as well. And that's definitely not something that we want to see, regardless. Right. In regards to US 192, yes, with the rain events that's been happening, and when you get a rain event that puts a lot of water in a short period of time, is, when you think about it, it's an easy way to do it is when you filling up your sink. You fill up your sink. You have a faucet. You put the water that comes out of your faucet. It looks okay. Well, think about that sink and get a 5-gallon bucket of water and dump about the same amount of water that you put in your sink, and with a 5-gallon bucket of water, a large bucket of water, it goes in at a very sudden rate. The bottom of your sink has a hole. It's going to allow the same amount of water pass through, but it's go not
take a little longer.
Take a little longer. You'll probably end up finding yourself making a mess in your bathroom.
Yes.
So that's a simplistic way of thinking about this. With US 192, obviously, when you get water in there, one key thing that Leanne stated in regards to drainage systems, and kind of also going back to something else I've talked about, is for in Save St. Cloud, we have we have multiple partners with our drainage systems, and of course our roadways. US 192 is maintained by the Florida Department of Transportation, and then we also have some roads that are maintained by Osseo County. So we work with our partners when we're doing the maintenance. However, with that, the Florida Department of Transportation does a very goes out and takes care of that area. One thing that I know that has been a cause of concern, and something that what Leanne says is your drainage systems, your stormwater systems is not a place to put trash in. Please, that is definitely something to be cognizant about. Just actually, early this week, going over to Old Canoe Creek Road crossing, right by US 192, checking out the area. I saw household trash in the canal system. That household trash goes down. What we like to see is water flowing through the system. We don't like to see trash going down there. That trash usually doesn't make its way all the way down to wherever the final destination is. It usually gets stuck somewhere. And when it gets stuck somewhere, such as a stormwater pipe, regardless how large it is, enough trash will get stuck. We'll talk about household trash, maybe some grass clippings, a tree branch here and there. That all pounds up, and then next thing you know, you have a smaller hole to get the amount of water that we typically would like to see go through there. And then when that water, we have a lot of water trying to go through a smaller hole. Like I said, it's kind of first come, first serve when it comes to water. The other water starts standing in line, and when it stands in line, it just starts backing up. And unfortunately, when it backs up, it's going to start backing up on the road, which is the impervious surface. So what we always ask our residents is to be cognizant about that. We have a great solid waste program. If you have something to throw away, put it in a trash cart, put it in a bin. If it's pretty big, give us a call. We'll gladly pick it up. And let's make sure the trash goes in the right spot.
Absolutely.
On that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then related to 192, so we're working with DOT and talking to them about some of those issues just to see if there are any, other than maintenance of some of that stormwater system that
Correct.
they can do, and anything else that they might be able to do to alleviate.
And correct. That's a great follow-up. So in regards to, US 192, FDOT is working diligently to ensure that the maintenance of the system is being done in the levels it needs to be done at. Whether they need to increase the maintenance, whether they need to ensure that they're isolating certain areas, kind of doing the same steps that we do here in the city on a much larger scale, of course. And then, of course, when they come out, they bring their maintenance crews, they bring their engineers, just like you'll see in the city. And they go and check to ensure that things are working the way that they're supposed to work. And sometimes if they might look at something just like we do. It's like, hey, we understand that this is the way it's supposed to work. How can we make things better? Engineers are always thinking to themselves, how can we make things better?
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's done through engineering, new engineering things. Sometimes that's done through maintenance. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's done through partnerships, such as getting with your local municipalities and getting with citizens to help educate citizens. This is what you can do to help make what we do a little easier, because what we do obviously affects all of us.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, Veronica, we're heading into a weekend here, and I looked at the forecast. It looks a little rainy this weekend, which is probably not good news to a lot of us here in St. Cloud. But so as we move through the weekend, can you give us some information as to how residents can reach out and contact and report concerns about flooding or things like that that they may experience over the weekend?
Sure, thank you. Again, if there is an emergency related to the flooding, we ask residents to, like normal, follow the normal 911, or if it's a sanitary sewer backup, to call the non-emergency line, which is 407-891-2929. 6700 to report that they're having a sanitary sewer backup and need assistance. Otherwise, we do have a new application called St. Cloud Connect. So what we would like is if you are experiencing some flooding-related issues, to please go on that app and report it, because that will help us have like Marjorie said, we need the data right now for us to be able to identify, what the true problem is and how far the problem is going. We can't do that without hearing from our residents. So please, if you have not already downloaded the application, ST Cloud Connect, please download it. If you're having issues, go ahead and report them. Otherwise, throughout the weekend, what we're planning on doing is our wonderful Public Information Officer, Communications Director Mariama, will be helping us put those updates immediately on the city's Facebook page as soon as they are available.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much. So as Veronica mentioned, we will stay on top of this throughout the weekend. We'll be putting updates out on our Facebook page. So keep tabs on that through there. As she mentioned, our St. Cloud Connect app is a great way for you to report problems that aren't emergency type of problems. You also can go to our website, stcloud.org, and click on, there's a box right on the homepage that says report a problem. You can use that as well. And as Marjorie mentioned, the more of this that we know, it helps us really pinpoint where the issues are, and it'll kind of help us play, mystery detectives at this point and identify really what's going on with those issues and be able to get them corrected. So thank you for joining us today. We look forward to bringing you further updates as we move through this, and we hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you.